Alright, and so the best stuff we save for last in this chapter about inequalities, because we're going to combine them with absolute value equations. Okay, so absolute value, I've been talking about it before, but absolute value looks like this. Just means the distance A is from 0 on number line. Okay, so if we think about that, all right, if we actually make a number line and we pick the letter A as a number, okay, we have 0 in the middle, obviously. Okay, let's say A is over here because it's positive. Why not? Okay, and so if we were to write that out, the number of units away it is from 0 is A. Makes sense. Okay, now if you think about it, there's actually, if you think about it, this is going two different ways. There's another number that is the same amount of units away from 0. And we are going to call that negative A because it's the opposite of the number. Okay? Alright? Now, what we have to is whenever we're working with absolute values is we have to think about two answers. Why? Because there's two different directions and thus two different distances that are the same distance from 0. Okay? So what does that mean for us? That means if you're ever dealing with the problem, x is absolute value of x, let's say minus 6 is equal to 8. Okay, let's say you're solving this equation. First off, you have to get rid of the numbers that are not inside the function of absolute value. So we're going to get rid of that by adding 6 to both sides. So we add 6, add 6. Okay, so now we get the absolute value of x is equal to 14. Okay, the second thing you're going to do is you're going to go, okay, I know there's going to be two sides to this. There's going to be one that's going to be positive and one that's negative. Because why? Because we're flipping about the x-axis, or about the 0 on the real number line. Okay? Alright, so x could be 14, x could be negative 14. Who knows? We don't know which one it is specifically, so we have to count for both circumstances. Now, it could be one or the other. It can't be both because, as you guys know, you cannot be the same number at the same time. So whenever you're doing an absolute value equation, you're going to put an or between the two numbers. Okay, some things to watch out for, you guys. Well, let's go 3x minus 9. I keep using 3. Let's use something different. Let's use 6. 6x, absolute value of 6x minus 9 plus 1 equals 10. There we go. Okay, so when you're working with this one, you always have to get rid of the numbers outside of the absolute value first, and that's always the truth. Okay? Because then and only then can you set up this problem to where these two parts are going to be equal. So 6x minus 9 absolute value equals 10. What am I doing? 9. There we go. Okay, then and only then you can really start moving forward and not making any mistakes on this. A lot of teachers in your past might have had you just set up the two problems in the beginning and say, oh, set up one positive, one negative, and we'll just deal with it from there. But a lot of people will make that mistake and just kind of screw around with it. So what you have to do is you have to ask yourself, okay, I need to subtract 1 from both sides because then there's a number that is the distance from 0 is 9. Okay, and I'm going to find that number. Alright, so that's where this comes from. And then what you do is you split it apart into two parts. So we got 6x minus 9 equals 9. And we got 6x minus 9 equals negative 9. Okay, now if you notice, the only thing I've changed is the number on the right-hand side. And that's the only sign you are going to have to change when you do the absolute value. Unless you're dealing Unless you're going to divide or multiply both sides by a negative, and then you have to change the sign. But usually in the beginning, when you start the two steps, the two different equations, you have to do it this way. Now most people, I'm not going to lie to you guys, most people will just go down this way and get this answer and totally forget about this. So you cannot forget about it, because that is one possibility that could happen. Okay, something that does come up, and a lot of students seem to have trouble with it, and I do want to talk about that one, is this problem, or something like this problem. Okay, most students will go, oh, they don't even think about what this is truly saying. Okay, they will set it up and they go 2x minus 6 equals 5, negative 5. And then I just switch the sign over here because I'm doing opposite. 2x minus 6 equals positive 5. And then they just solve it and they get the answer. And what you're going to do is, if you do choose to do this answer, you are going to find that it doesn't check out. No matter how hard you try, the answer will never, ever, ever, ever check out. Why is that? Because of this in the original statement. Negative 5. Okay, so think about what this is saying. This is saying this absolute value is equal to a negative number. Is that a true statement? Okay, and I'll answer for you in the words of Wreck-It Ralph, ha! And no, it is not the same. Okay, you can never have an absolute value equal negative. So, when you come across a problem, now you do have to have nothing else over here on this side. Okay, if you notice, I have no added or subtracted or multiplied or divide on this side. Okay, because when all said is done, I have an absolute value equals a number. However, if I have an absolute value, let's go 4x minus 9, absolute value minus 12 equals negative 5, and you're going to say, oh, that's negative, I don't have to do it. Okay, you're probably saying, oh, I can write no real numbers and then move on. Nope, you have to get rid of this 12 first, so we have to add 12 to both sides. Okay, and I get the absolute value of 4x minus 9 equals 7. Okay, and then as you can see, it becomes positive, and now I can continue on. Alright, whereas up here, I couldn't continue on because I had an absolute value equal negative, whereas down here, when I got done adding the 12, I got a positive number. So that's kind of important that you guys pay attention to that. Okay. Now, can you combine this with inequalities? Yes. Something that looks like this. Alright, now when you do inequalities, you do have to make sure, once again, that the right side is positive, and once you can confirm it is positive, you can write out your two equations. Y minus 2 is less than 2, or y minus 2. Now, because we're dealing with the negative, you do have to flip the actual inequality, okay? And so y is less than 0, or y is greater than, no, wait, hold on, that one should be 4. I was getting mixed up. And this one should be 0. Okay, and you can actually graph this pretty easily by just saying, you know, oh, 4 is right here, 0 is right here. Use a different color. Come on. Alright, so y is greater than 0, so that means everything over here. Y is less than 4, everything over here. So since it's just that, it's just everything, all the numbers that exist. Okay. Alright. Alright, now if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask me. Inequalities are tough, but as long as you do at first step and then solve it, because you're going to get two different answers, you should be fine. Okay, and plus check your work. If you're not checking your work, you might make a mistake and just accept it as an answer when in fact it's not. So check your work, check your work, check your work. Oh, and for the error problems, okay, here's how you write out the formula. So you have the absolute value with the x, and then you have 241 plus or minus, well actually you would have you would just have minus, and you would say mean or the average, and that would be equal to the error tolerance. Okay, so as long as you have it set up like this, you should be totally cool. Now this error tolerance is going to turn into a plus or minus. Okay, and then when I add the mean to either the positive or add the mean to the negative, I'm going to get both the highest number that my production line can have, or I'm going to get the lowest number my production line can have. But if you set up the formula like this, it should make your job a lot easier. All right, thank you guys and have a great day. Bye.